What's up, guys? D-Rock 1992 here. For this next video and for my next actor in my new About Actor series, I'm going to be talking about another comedian like Adam Sandler. And this guy's Will Ferrell. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Will Ferrell is one of my favorite comedy actors of all time, right up there with Adam Sandler, Robin Williams, and many others as well. But this guy is definitely, in a way, like Adam Sandler, in the fact that he often, a lot of his movies are dumb comedy, for sure. I mean, he's just a comedian that specializes in stupid comedy, like Adam Sandler. But what makes him a little different is that Adam Sandler, I consider, is just a stupid comedian just to be a stupid comedian, basically. And I mean stupid comedian in a good way. But Will Ferrell is kind of a stupid spoof comedian, where he spoofs certain aspects of American culture. And the movies that I talk about, a lot of these movies, he does that. He spoofs certain parts of American culture. He is a member of the frat pack. And these are comedians who emerged in the late 1990s and the 2000s. These guys include Ben Stiller, Steve Carell, Jack Black, Vince Vaughn, Owen and Luke Wilson, and Will Ferrell. And you'll find that a lot of these guys star in movies with each other. They collaborate a lot with each other, and it's great to see, definitely, for fans such as myself. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing, and the frat pack is definitely very memorable. I probably was taken from the Brat Pack, which was a group of actors and actresses in the 1980s. I think that included Andrew McCarthy. I know Andrew McCarthy, Molly Ringwald, a few other ones as well. But without further ado, I'm gonna first. Actually, what I'm gonna do, Will Ferrell, he got his first big start, obviously, in Saturday Night Live. I mean, he is one of the best Saturday Night Live comedians, Saturday Night Live players ever. I mean, he's obviously top 5, top 3 even. Or he even is number 1. The guy is very memorable. I mean, Saturday Night Live sketches. The cowbell sketch is probably the most famous one. The cheerleader sketch he did with Sherry O'Terry. The Get Off the Shed sketch. Actually, one that I performed at my college. Actually, as part of I was in an acting class, and I got to actually perform that sketch. That Get Off the sketch, and it made me really happy, because I performed the part that Will Ferrell performed on his the original sketch. So it's something I'll always remember. I'll always remember for sure. Just a lot of great. He does his impressions as well. George W. Bush is probably the most famous. Robert Goulet, a famous singer back in the day. Also, James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. He does a hilarious impersonation of him, a hilariously stupid one. Harry Carey, the Chicago Cubs broadcaster. And so Saturday Night Live, definitely a huge thing for Will Ferrell, and what made him known. And that is what jumped his film career, which I'm going to get into. His first ever film was not very well known. Not a very well known film. You probably won't know it if I, now that I say, The film is called Bucket of Blood, and contrary to what you guys think it is, it's a black comedy horror film. Bucket of Blood, that just seems like a horror film to me. That is his film debut. His third film was Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. He played a very small role in this. He played a guy named Mustafa, who was one of Dr. Evil's minions in that movie. He also played Mustafa in the second Austin Powers movie. Did not play him in the third, though. But that's really where people kind of... obviously, if you were fans of Saturday Night Live back in the day, you knew Will Ferrell's performance in the Austin Powers movies for sure. And he starred in those too. In the late 90s, there were also 2 Saturday Night Live-based films that he starred in. One of them was 1998's A Night at the Roxbury, one that I have watched before. The 2 Austin Powers movies I've watched before, and those 2 are very good movies. I love Austin Powers. Great spoof movies. Night at the Roxbury. Another kind of spoof comedy movie about the nightclub life. A Night at the Roxbury, he stars as Steve Butabi. He pairs up with his brother Doug Butabi, who is played by also a member of Saturday Night Live, Chris Kattan. They both were together, right? Yeah, they both were together in Saturday Night Live. But these 2 are prospective nightclub owners. They want to own their own nightclub, and they go through certain silly adventures to go through that. And then the other Saturday Night Live based film was a film called Superstar. It's based off a Molly Shannon sketch. She plays this Catholic schoolgirl who is just very silly and wild. And A Night at the Roxbury is is another Saturday Night Live thing. It's Steve and Doug Butabi appeared on Saturday Night Live originally a few times, but Superstar, same thing. Will Ferrell plays a supporting role in this. A Night at the Roxbury is sort of... It's a starring role. It's really his first starring role. But he also he's a big co-star along with Chris Kattan. They're both leading stars in that movie. But Superstar, it's where I think... I've never watched the movie before, but it's where she looks to get something like she looks to win a contest or something like that, or she looks to be the boy. I can't really tell the plot because I haven't watched it before, but it's a memorable movie definitely for Ferrell fans. But it's one of the few I haven't watched. But we get into the 2000s, and another SNL-type movie. There's a guy named Tim Meadows on Saturday Night Live, and he did this sketch of The Ladies' Man. That got made into a movie, and he had a supporting role in the movie, which is definitely memorable. One of his biggest roles... Definitely, and one of his earliest, he was only the supporting actor, was Zoolander. Ben Stiller is in this movie, Owen Wilson, Frat Pack members. And Zoolander is one of my favorite comedy movies of all time, mainly because this is one of my favorite Will Ferrell performances of all time. He plays Mugatu, who plans to kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia in this movie. It's definitely a spoof on the fashion industry. and he plans to have Ben Stiller's character Derek Zoolander kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia in order to keep costs low for child workers who make his fashion products and his fashion line called Derelict, I think. Yeah. But Zoolander's one that I've watched many times before. It is my favorite Will Ferrell performance. It's very good. 2003 comes along, and it was a big year for Will Ferrell. This was really his breakout role, or Old School was his breakout role, arguably. He plays Frank the Tank Ricard, who also Luke Wilson and Vince Vaughn are co-stars along with him in this movie. But this is definitely Ferrell's breakout role, and a lot of Ferrell fans, this is probably their favorite movie. It's where they start a fraternity. They want to relive their college days, and they start a fraternity in college campus. The other big movie that came out in 2003 was Elf. This was his first family-friendly type film. Elf, about an elf who leaves the North Pole and goes down to New York City and experiences life in the big city, basically. Definitely, I've watched it. I've watched Old School as well. They're both very good comedy movies of Will Ferrell's. I haven't watched Elf in a long time, but definitely a kid-friendly movie for sure. Any kid could see it. But the next movie I'm talking about, that's a movie no young child should see. But it is definitely adult as it gets. 2004, arguably Ferrell's most famous film, Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy. That came out, and that was quite a movie. He spoofing the newscasting business, newscaster, news anchor type thing. He plays Ron Burgundy, and he faces competition in this movie from a woman broadcaster, who played by Christina Applegate, and she is really significant because she's one of the first women really in the, this kind of portrays women's rights getting into the broadcasting business. This is was kind of viewed as a man's world, but she gets into it, and some co-stars along with him are Paul Rudd as Danny Fantana, I think the name is, David Koechner, and Steve Carell. Steve Carell, probably one of the more famous ones, as the name escapes me right now, but Brick is his name. I can't remember the last name, but yeah, this movie is very memorable, not just because of Will Ferrell, but Christina Applegate delivers a good performance, Paul Rudd, David Koechner, Steve Carell, and Fred Willard even. He makes a good little appearance in that. So, arguably Will Ferrell's most famous film. 2004, he had a film that was uncredited, but was still a memorable uncredited role, Starsky and Hutch, a remake of the 1970s TV series. And Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson starred in this movie. And he played a guy named Big Earl, who was an informant for Vince Vaughn's character, a villain called Reese Feldman. Again, another frat pack movie. In 2005, 2005 was a very good year, very busy year for Will Ferrell. He starred in The Producers, which is a movie which is a remake of the Broadway play, I think it was. I believe it was a Broadway type play. It's a musical comedy film. It's an adaptation of the 2001 Broadway musical, which in turn was based on the 1968 film of the same name. And the producers, it has Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick, Uma Thurman, and Will Ferrell as the main stars of this movie. So Will Ferrell is a supporting role in that movie. The next film I'm going to talk about is another Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn collaboration, Wedding Crashers. Again, Will Ferrell in this movie plays an uncredited role, but Chaz Reinhold is the character's name, and he is the original Wedding Crasher. I'll get more into that movie because I know I'm going to talk about Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson and those guys because they're some of my favorite actors, so I definitely will be featuring them at some point. Bewitched is another big film that he was in with Nicole Kidman after the 1960s or 50s movie of the same, or TV show of the same name. It didn't do very well at the box office. And with critics. I never saw the movie. I haven't seen it, but another Will Ferrell role there. The last big movie that he starred in 2005 was Kicking and Screaming. This is one I haven't seen in a while, but I did see it. I remember seeing it in high school. I think we had a free day in high school and we watched this movie. Will Ferrell and Robert Duvall play in this movie. And this is about, he's a dad who gets competitive with his father in the sport of soccer. This is one of the many sports spoofs that Will Ferrell does. And he competes against his father, who he's very competitive against, for soccer glory. And that is one of the big ones there. 2006, a busy year for Will Ferrell. Stranger Than Fiction was one of the first ones he did. And he played a guy named Harold Crick. And this movie is significant because it is one of Will Ferrell's first serious roles. Adam Sandler, as I mentioned before, he had some serious film roles as well. Will Ferrell, following Adam Sandler's lead, he gets into serious roles himself. And I believe this movie was critically acclaimed, but I've never watched it, and it's on my bucket list. I'm curious about seeing it. But definitely a curiosity of a movie. I think it's where he's in his own different world. He is trapped in his own little... He's being narrated, I think, or something like that. His life is being narrated in this movie. But, yeah, one of Will Ferrell's most serious roles. And then, the next movie is one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies of all time. Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, where he plays Ricky Bobby. This spoofs NASCAR, totally. NASCAR, I'm a big sports fan, but NASCAR is not one of my favorite sports. This movie spoofs NASCAR, and it spoofs NASCAR in a big way. It's about Ricky Bobby, a NASCAR racer. He wants to be the best, and he has to battle this Frenchman who's played by Sacha Baron Cohen. He'll be coming up on my actors list. He's one of my favorites. And he has to compete against him for NASCAR glory to win at the Daytona 500. Another very so memorable one for him. A very memorable role for him, and one that he's famous for, definitely. And the last big movie that he was in 2006 was his first voiceover, Curious George, after the children's book. children's book. I think there was a TV series. And Will Ferrell in this one plays Ted, or the man in the yellow hat. I watched parts of it, but not the whole thing. But Curious George, a little monkey who gets into a lot of mischief, and Ted, the man in the yellow hat, most of his energy is spent trying to chase after George and get him to behave, basically. So, that was 2006. The next year, 2007, another big year for him. And starting off are two more sports spoofs. First one I'm going to talk about, Blades of Glory. This spoofs figure skating, men's figure skating. Will Ferrell in this movie plays Chaz Michaels, and he plays a guy who is banned from single figure skating, single men's figure skating, for his antics. He's a wild man, wild antics, and he just spoofs it very well. And the guy who plays Napoleon Dynamite is in this movie as well. Co-stars in this movie. I don't quite have the name. John Heder, I think his name is. I'll check it out right now. John Heder. I was right. This is where they try to achieve figure skating glory. Will Ferrell and Chad Heder's characters, they have to join up together in the men's doubles figure skating competition. So there's that. Actually, I was wrong about 2007. He only really made Blades of Glory, and he executive produced the movie Hot Rod, which I think is Andy Samberg's film debut. Andy Samberg, another alum of Saturday Night Live. 2008, a couple big movies that came out. Semi-Pro, which is a spoof of basketball, and the ABA back in the 1970s. There was an ABA basketball league. Jackie Moon is Will Ferrell's character's name, and he plays a guy who is the head of an ABA basketball team that's looking to get into the NBA. But there's a problem. There's not a lot of fans that show up at these ABA games. His ABA team's games. And the owner, the commissioner of the NBA, he wants Ferrell's character to get fans in the seats, or else his team will not go to the NBA. So it's an adventure about that. They have to earn basketball glory. They have to place third, I believe it is, in the movie. But either way, definitely a memorable another memorable sports spoof movie of Will Ferrell's. Also in 2008, he came out with another one of his most famous movies, Step Brothers, a movie he starred in with John C. Reilly, who I forgot to mention he also starred with in Talladega Nights. Step Brothers, it's where I watched that a while back. It's where he and his mother become family with John C. Reilly's character's father and his and the son. And John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell basically become stepbrothers because Ferrell's character's mother and Reilly's character's father, they both marry. So it's a little look inside the Step Brothers type thing. It's a spoof on that. And definitely one of his most famous roles. 2009, he comes out with Land of the Lost. I think another semi-serious role for him. It's semi-serious. It's where he and his team, they actually discovered dinosaurs. Now, I watched this movie a while back. It's been a long time, though. So, I know they discovered dinosaurs, and his character, Dr. Rick Marshall, humiliates Matt Lauer of the Today Show. I know that much. 2010, as we hit the 2010s, Will Ferrell's career continues to go off. In 2010, he stars in The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg, another guy who I'm definitely going to mention in my list of great actors and actresses. The Other Guys is basically the behind-the-scenes guys of a police force, of a detective force, police force. He and Mark Wahlberg, the spotlight is on them now to uncover a big mystery, they're both basically detectives now. They have to, and police officers, they have to uncover a big mystery, and that movie is definitely about that. I've watched it before. It's been a while since I've watched it. But, yeah. The Other Guys, definitely a memorable film from Will Ferrell. In 2010, another voice role for him, Megamind. He plays, and I think this is where I've never watched the movie, but he plays this guy who is, I think, a villain. Megamind is a villain, and he gets bored. He defeats a superhero. No, wait. He sort of gets bored. He defeats a superhero, and he gets bored. And he creates a new superhero for himself to fight. And basically, his plan doesn't work. Metro City, the town there, the fictional Metro City, spiraling out of control. Megamind has to do something about it. And yeah, definitely Megamind, a memorable voiceover performance from him. Let's see here. In 2012, he comes out with a Spanish language film. Actually, a very curious move for him. Casa de mi Padre, a Spanish language American comedy film, which spoofs the old. It's kind of a spoof of a telenovela, basically. A telenovela soap or something like that. I haven't really seen the movie, so I'm not going to explain the plot, but yeah, that's another more recent Will Ferrell movie. In 2012, he also comes out with The Campaign. I have seen this movie, and he stars in it with Zach Galifianakis of the Hangover fame. And with The Campaign, he plays a senator, Cam Brady, who goes up for election against Zach Galifianakis' character, and they compete for a seat in Congress. The same seat in Congress. That's the movie, basically. 2013. Pretty big year for him. First off, he has an uncredited role in yet another Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn collaboration, The Internship. He plays a guy named Kevin who is the owner of a mattress store with Vince Vaughn's character. He hires Vince Vaughn's character. This is really before the big events of the movie go on, and I'm not going to describe the movie because Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson are in it, so I'll describe it later when I describe either one of those two. But 2013 was a big year for Will Ferrell because Anchorman 2 came out. The long-awaited sequel, Anchorman 2: The Legend Continues. It's where they go into, and I got to see this in theaters actually just this year in January or February of this year. It is where they go into, and most of the same characters are there: Christina Applegate, Steve Carell, David Koechner, Paul Rudd, all those guys, and they actually go into 24-hour news broadcasting, which is an unheard of thing that came out in the 1970s, and they go into that. It details the adventure there to become the best in the 24-hour news broadcasting. Anchorman 2, in my opinion, is better than Anchorman 1. Just because there's a lot more funny moments, just a lot more outrageousness, which I look for in comedy for sure. It's one of the things I look at. And, yeah, definitely is Anchorman 2, very memorable Will Ferrell role, one of his best. And then this year, he comes out with the Lego Movie, which is just recent. Well, very popular movie. Haven't watched it yet, but I want to. He plays a guy named President Business. This is a voiceover role, obviously. Lego Movie is a animated movie, and he plays Slash, the man upstairs. That movie, very memorable, very popular this year. I think one of the highest grossing movies of the year so far. So that really is Will Ferrell's movie career. Now, what's coming up? He actually also produced the Melissa McCarthy movie Tammy. That just came out this year. And he did not star in the movie. He just was a producer. Along with Adam McKay, who he's collaborated with a lot of times before. Some movies that are coming up for Will Ferrell. There's a movie called Welcome to Me that's slated to come out in September. Actually, it just came out, September 5th. It's actually just came out. I think it's an independent film. He does not star in it. I think it's just a producing role. But this movie has Kristen Wiig, yet another Saturday Night Live alum. This next movie I know for a fact he stars in, and it's a movie called Get Hard. It's going to come out March 27th of next year, and it is about a businessman, Will Ferrell's character, who hires a tough guy so he can learn how to survive his upcoming prison sentence. That's the plot, what they describe on Wikipedia. But Will Ferrell's going to be in this movie, and Kevin Hart is going to be in this movie. Also, T.I., the rapper, and yet another Saturday Night Live alum, Jay Farrow, who actually is current. He's currently on the current cast. But Get Hard is is a starring role that he's going to go in this year. And then the next one here is going to be, and let's see if he stars in this one. No, he doesn't. He's just a producer. He's going to produce a romantic comedy film called Sleeping with Other People, and it stars Jason Sudeikis, another SNL alum. Boy, he works with a lot of his SNL peers and his SNL collaborators, and current and future and past and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's Will Ferrell's movie career, basically. And I talked mainly about his main role in his television career being on Saturday Night Live. He was on Saturday Night Live from 1995 to 2002. So he was on for a long time. He had a guest spot on King of the Hill, a show that I despise. I really don't like the show at all. I really don't. He had a cameo, or he had a guest spot on Family Guy as the Black Knight. This was an old Family Guy episode from 2001. He was on a show from 2001 to 2002 called The Oblongs, a show that didn't last very long. He's hosted Saturday Night Live a few times, one in 2005 and another time in 2012. He is, let's see here. He was on SpongeBob SquarePants. The guy's done a lot. 2009 as well, I think, as a spot on Saturday Night Live. He's hosted 3 times since he left. To a lot of internet lovers, he's known as the creator, a co-creator, and executive producer of Funny or Die. I watch the videos occasionally, some of the videos. He also was in 30 Rock and The Office. Now, 30 Rock, he played a guy named Shane Hunter, or he was humorously known as the Bitch Hunter. Pretty, somewhat hilarious. I mean, just normal Will Ferrell antics, so definitely nothing to expect there. Nothing really to be surprised at. He played in The Office, on Conan from 2012 to 2013, Conan, the talk show on TBS. He actually played Ron Burgundy. He came on the show as Ron Burgundy, and he announced Anchorman 2 on that show. He also was on The Spoils of Babylon for 6 episodes for 2014. And he is going to produce... he is a co-creator and executive producer of a brand new TV series coming out this TV season, called Bad Judge. Actually, one that I'm looking forward to. And The Spoils Before Dying is coming up in 2015. It's a follow-up to The Spoils of Babylon. But that's Will Ferrell's career. Will Ferrell, very memorable actor. I mean, here's hoping to many great movies ahead of time. I certainly hope that he comes up with great movies in the future, certainly. I hope that the Get Hard movie is memorable. The guy is a genius. He is an inspiration. That's it for the video. So this has been my About Actor series on Will Ferrell. So that's it. D-Rock 1992 out.